Jake Morrison sat in the pilot seat of his cargo ship, the Frontier Runner, watching the stars drift past his window. He was 3 days into a routine supply run to the mining colony on Kepler 442b. The job was boring, but that was exactly what he wanted these days. After 12 years in the military as a scout, boring felt like paradise. He sipped his coffee and checked the navigation system. Everything looked normal. The cargo hold was full of mining equipment, spare parts, and food supplies. Another 2 days, and he would reach the colony, collect his payment, and head back to Earth. Simple work for simple pay. The alarm shattered the silence. Jake's coffee cup flew from his hand as the ship lurched violently to the side. Red lights flashed across every panel. The computer screamed warnings about an external force pulling the ship off course. He grabbed the controls and tried to break free, but nothing worked. The engines roared at full power, yet the ship moved backward. Through the window, Jake saw it. A massive vessel, easily 100 times the size of his freighter, hung in space like a dark mountain. It had a strange design, all sharp angles and organic curves mixed together. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at. A blue beam connected his ship to the alien vessel, dragging him closer despite everything he tried. Jake hit the emergency beacon, but the alien ship jammed the signal instantly. His heart pounded as he realized nobody would know what happened to him. He was alone, being pulled into something unknown. The Frontier Runner disappeared into a bay on the underside of the alien ship. Mechanical arms grabbed the freighter and locked it in place. Jake's engines died. Life support flickered. Then the cargo bay door began to open from the outside. Jake pulled his emergency kit from under the seat. It contained a knife, a small medical pack, and a flare gun. Not much against whoever owned a ship that size, but better than nothing. He moved to the airlock, waiting. The door opened. The air that rushed in smelled strange, like burning metal and something sweet that made his nose itch. 3 figures stood outside, backlit by harsh purple lights. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with bodies covered in scales that shifted colors from dark green to gray to brown. Their heads were angular with large eyes that reflected light like a cat's. When they moved, their skin changed to match the shadows around them. Claws clicked on the metal floor. One of them stepped forward and held up a small device. It spoke in a series of clicks and hisses. Then the device translated into English with a flat, mechanical voice. Human. You are claimed for the hunt. Resistance brings pain. Compliance brings quick death or possible freedom. Jake's military training kicked in. He kept his hands visible and his face neutral. What hunt? What do you want? The alien's head tilted. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air. You are prey. We are Vkrath, the greatest hunters in 7 systems. You will run. We will chase. This is the way. They took him from his ship. Jake did not fight. Not yet. He needed to understand the situation first. The aliens led him through corridors that curved in impossible ways. Other aliens passed by, some stopping to look at him with what felt like hungry interest. They brought him to a massive room filled with other humans. Jake counted quickly. 15 people, all looking scared and confused. Some were crying. Others sat in shocked silence. They wore different uniforms from various shipping companies and colony services. A woman with short blonde hair approached him. Her uniform said she was medical personnel. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm fine, Jake said. What's happening here? They grabbed us from different ships over the past week. They keep saying something about a hunt, but nobody understands what they mean. Her voice shook. I'm Lisa Kane. I was transporting medical supplies when they took my ship. An older man with gray hair and oil-stained work clothes joined them. Greg Palmer, mining engineer. Whatever these things are planning, it's not good. I've been watching them. They look at us like we're animals. Before Jake could respond, the room's lights changed. A platform rose from the floor, and the largest V-Craft Jake had seen yet stepped onto it. This one wore decorative armor covered in marks and symbols. When it moved, dozens of small bones clattered against the armor plates. The translation device activated. The voice boomed through the room. "Pray things, I am Scrath, Hunt Master of the V-Crath. You have been selected for the Great Hunt. You should feel honored. Your species is new to our collection. Humans, soft, weak, no claws, no fangs, poor senses. You rank as Tier 3 prey, low difficulty, but you will provide entertainment." Scrath gestured with one clawed hand. A holographic image appeared, showing a massive landscape with forests, mountains, and rivers. "This is the hunting ground, 50 square miles of perfect wilderness. You will be released into this domain. You have 6 of your hours to run, hide, prepare. Then we hunt. Survive 10 rotations of our home world, and you go free. Fail, and you die with honor as prey." One of the humans, a young man in a pilot's uniform, shouted out, "This is murder! You can't do this!" Scrath's eyes focused on the speaker. "We can. We do. We have done this for generations across many worlds. No prey has ever survived. You will not be the first." The alien's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "But you may try. That is what makes the hunt interesting." The floor beneath the humans suddenly opened. They fell through into a dark tube that twisted and turned. Jake tried to grab onto something, but the walls were too smooth. After several seconds of falling, he landed hard on grass. He rolled to his feet, checking for injuries. Nothing broken. Around him, the other humans were picking themselves up, groaning and scared. They stood in a clearing surrounded by thick forest. The sky above was not real. It was a dome, probably made of some advanced material, showing a false sun and clouds. Jake helped Lisa to her feet. She was shaking but unhurt. Greg landed nearby, cursing under his breath. The young pilot who had shouted at Scrath was crying now, curled up on the ground. "Listen to me," Jake said loudly. Everyone turned to look at him. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But if we panic, we die. If we work together, maybe we survive." A woman with red hair and a scientist's uniform spoke up. "You heard what that thing said. Nobody has ever survived. We're just entertainment for them." "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but I'm not going to die without fighting. I was a military scout for 12 years. I know how to survive in the wilderness. I know how to hide and how to move quietly. If you listen to me, I can give us a chance." Some of the humans nodded. Others still looked hopeless. But it was a start. Jake looked around, studying the terrain. The forest was thick with trees he didn't recognize. In the distance, mountains rose against the fake sky. Water sounds suggested a river nearby. He checked his watch. They had 6 hours before the hunt began. "First, we need to move away from this clearing," Jake said. "They dropped us here so they'll expect us to stay nearby. Second, we need water and shelter. Third, we need to stay together. Anyone who runs off alone will die fast." Greg nodded. "The kid's right. I've survived 3 mine collapses and a colony R." The group moved through the forest as quietly as possible. Jake led them upstream along a river he had found. The water was clear and cold, and Amy confirmed it was safe to drink after running some basic tests with a small scanner she had kept in her pocket. The trees were strange. Their bark felt smooth like plastic but smelled organic. The leaves were dark purple instead of green. Everything about this place felt wrong, artificial. Jake knew they were inside a massive dome on the alien ship, but the environment felt almost real. Almost. "How much time do we have?" Lisa asked, breathing hard. She was not used to hiking. Jake checked his watch. 4 hours and 20 minutes before they start hunting. Greg wiped sweat from his face. "We need to find shelter, somewhere defensible. These things are going to have better weapons, better senses, better everything. Our only advantage is that they think we're weak." "We are weak," said a thin man named Pete, who worked as a cargo loader. "Did you see those claws? Those teeth? We don't have any weapons. We're going to die here." "Stop talking like that," Amy said sharply. "Fear will kill us faster than those aliens." Jake agreed. He had seen soldiers break down in combat, and it always started with giving up hope. "Greg's right about shelter. I saw some caves in those mountains. If we can reach them before dark, we'll have a better defensive position." The hike took 3 hours. 2 of the humans could barely keep up. Jake had to slow the pace several times. Every minute felt precious, but he could not leave anyone behind. Not yet. They reached the mountain slopes as the artificial sun began to set. The caves were there, just as Jake had seen from a distance. He checked the largest cave entrance carefully. No signs of animals or other dangers. The cave went back about 30 feet and had a narrow entrance that could be defended. "This will work," Jake said. "Everyone inside. Rest while you can. I'm going to scout the area." "Alone?" Lisa asked. "Is that safe?" "Safer than all of us stumbling around in the dark." Jake picked up a heavy stick that could work as a club. "If I'm not back in an hour, seal the entrance with rocks and stay quiet." He left before anyone could argue. Moving alone felt natural after years of military scouting. Jake climbed higher up the mountain, using the fading light to study the terrain below. He could see the forest they had crossed, the river winding through it, and the clearing where they had started. Then he saw movement. The V-Craft moved through the trees like shadows. Their color-changing skin made them almost invisible. Jake counted 3 of them, spread out in a hunting pattern. They moved with confidence, taking their time. They were not worried about their prey escaping. Jake watched them for 20 minutes, learning. The V-Craft checked the ground for tracks. They tested the air with their tongues. They communicated with soft clicking sounds that carried through the forest. Each hunter worked alone, not coordinating with the others. It was about individual glory, Jake realized. Each one wanted to make the first kill by themselves. He memorized their patterns and movements. Then he carefully climbed back down to the cave. Inside, the group had built a small fire near the back where the smoke would dissipate through cracks in the rock. It was risky, but they needed warmth. The temperature had dropped when the fake sun set. "I saw 3 of them," Jake reported. "They're in the forest below us. They're hunting already, even though the 6 hours aren't up yet." "They're cheating?" Greg said. "They're learning the terrain, following our trail. They'll attack at the agreed time, but they're preparing." Jake sat down near the fire. "I also learned something important. They hunt alone. Each one wants their own kill. They're not working as a team." Amy leaned forward. "That's actually consistent with what I know about predator psychology. Many Earth predators are solitary hunters. Competition between hunters can be as important as the hunt itself." "Can we use that?" Lisa asked. "Maybe," Jake said, "but first we need to survive tonight." The 6 hours ended. They knew because the forest sounds changed. Before there had been bird calls and insect noises. Now everything went silent. The prey animals of this artificial world knew danger had arrived. The first scream came an hour later. It was Pete, the cargo loader. He had ignored Jake's orders and left the cave to relieve himself. The sound of his death echoed across the mountain. It lasted less than 30 seconds, then cut off abruptly. 2 other humans panicked and ran from the cave despite Jake's shouts to stop. He heard them die in the darkness, their screams mixing with the clicking sounds of the V-Craft. The aliens were fast, terrifyingly fast. Jake, Lisa, Greg, Amy, and 8 others huddled in the cave. They blocked the entrance with rocks, leaving just enough space to watch the outside. Nobody spoke. They barely breathed. A V-Craft appeared at the cave entrance. Its eyes reflected the firelight. It studied the rock barrier, clicked something, then moved on. The narrow entrance was too small for its large body to enter easily, and the rocks would make noise if moved. The hunter decided to find easier prey first. The night lasted forever. They heard more screams in the distance. By dawn, Jake estimated they had lost at least 5 more people, maybe 6. The Vkrath were picking off anyone who panicked and ran. When the artificial sun rose, Jake carefully dismantled the rock barrier and looked outside. No sign of the hunters. They had withdrawn, probably to rest and plan for the next night. Vkrath were patient hunters, not wasteful. "We can't just hide here for 10 days, Greg said. His face was pale, and his hands shook. "They'll eventually come in here and drag us out." "He's right," Amy agreed. "We need food and water. The cave is shelter, but it's also a trap." Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing all night. "We need to do 3 things. First, scout for other survivors and bring them here. Second, find food and water sources nearby. Third, figure out how these aliens hunt so we can avoid them or fight back." "Fight back?" Lisa looked at him like he was crazy. "With what? Rocks?" "If necessary, yes, with rocks." Jake stood up. "These aliens think we're helpless prey. They're treating this like a sport. That makes them overconfident. Overconfidence is a weakness." Greg laughed, but it was bitter. "You sound like you think we can actually win this." "I think we can survive. And if we survive, we win." Jake picked up his stick. "I'm going out to scout. Anyone who wants to come with me can. Anyone who wants to stay here and hide can do that too. But hiding won't work for 10 days. We need to be smart." Amy stood up. "I'll come. If we're going to survive in this environment, you need someone who understands biology and ecosystems." Lisa rose too. "You'll need medical support if anyone gets hurt." Eventually, 6 of them went out while 5 stayed in the cave. Jake led them carefully down the mountain, moving slowly and watching for any sign of the Vkrath. The hunters were nocturnal, or at least preferred to hunt at night. That gave the humans daylight hours to work. They found 2 other survivors hiding in the forest, both terrified but alive. Jake brought them back to the cave group. Then Amy found a grove of fruit-bearing plants. She tested them carefully and declared them safe to eat. The fruit tasted strange, like a mix of apple and copper, but it filled their stomachs. Near the river, they found tracks in the mud. Vkrath tracks, pressed deep into the soft earth. Jake studied them, measuring the size and depth. He also found something else, marks on tree bark, where the hunters had sharpened their claws. "They're marking territory," Amy said, examining the scratches. "This is ritual behavior. They're following patterns, traditions." "Patterns can be predicted," Jake said. "Traditions can be exploited." That afternoon, Jake climbed a tall tree and watched the forest. He saw a Vkrath moving through the woods about half a mile away. The creature moved with absolute confidence, making no effort to hide. It was checking the area, preparing for the next hunt. Jake watched it for an hour, learning everything he could. The way it moved, the way it tested the air, the way it marked certain trees. Knowledge was survival. Every detail mattered. When he climbed down, the others were waiting anxiously. "Tonight will be worse than last night," Jake told them honestly. "They're getting familiar with the terrain. They know where we are generally. We need to be ready." "Ready how?" Lisa asked. "We still don't have weapons." Jake looked at Greg. "Can you engineer a trap? Something that could hurt or slow down one of these things?" The second night was quieter than the first. The Vkrath were more careful now, having picked off the easy targets. The humans who remained were either with Jake's group or had found good hiding spots. Only 2 screams echoed through the darkness, both far away. Jake stood watch at the cave entrance while the others slept. His body ached from exhaustion, but his mind stayed sharp. Years of military training had taught him how to function without sleep. He watched the forest, looking for the shimmer of color-changing skin or the reflection of alien eyes. Dawn came slowly. When there was enough light, Jake woke the others. 11 humans remained in their group now. He did not know if other survivors existed elsewhere in the dome, but he doubted it. The V-Krath had been efficient. "We need to change tactics," Jake told the group as they ate the strange fruit for breakfast. "Hiding is keeping us alive, but barely. The V-Krath can wait us out. They have time. We don't." "What are you suggesting?" Amy asked. She looked tired but alert. "We go on offense. We set up a proper ambush and try to kill one of them." The cave went silent. Everyone stared at Jake like he had suggested flying to the moon. Greg broke the silence. "You want to kill one of those things? With rocks and sticks?" "With intelligence and planning," Jake corrected. "Look, I've been watching them. They're strong, fast, and have better senses than us, but they're also arrogant. They think this is a game. They hunt alone for glory. They follow patterns. Those are all weaknesses we can exploit." Lisa shook her head. "Even if we somehow killed one, the others would just come after us harder." "They're already coming after us as hard as they can," Jake said. "The only difference is we'd have weapons, alien weapons, technology, and we'd prove to ourselves that these things can be beaten." Amy considered this. From a xenobiology perspective, it makes sense. Predators that have never faced real resistance develop predictable behaviors. Humans are the only species that became the dominant predator on Earth through tool use and cooperation, not natural weapons. That's our advantage. Jake nodded. "Exactly. Our ancestors killed animals 10 times their size with sharpened sticks and teamwork. We can do this, but we need to be smart about it." One of the younger survivors, a woman named Kelly who had worked on a transport ship, spoke up. "I'm in. I'd rather die fighting than hide in a cave waiting to be picked off." Others nodded agreement. Fear was turning into anger, which was exactly what Jake needed. They spent the day preparing. Greg improved the deadfall trap, making it more reliable. Amy gathered plants with thorns and created crude spears by lashing them to long branches. Lisa sorted through medical supplies she had managed to salvage, preparing for injuries. Jake worked on the killing zone itself. He found a narrow ravine about 200 yards from the cave. It was a natural choke point with steep walls on both sides. He directed the group to gather heavy rocks and place them on the cliff edges above. They covered the rocks with branches and dirt so they would not be obvious. "The trap near the cave is the bait," Jake explained. "Tonight we trigger it early. The noise will attract a V-Krath. We let it find the triggered trap and think we panicked. Then we lead it here, to this ravine. When it follows us through, we drop the rocks from above." "What if it doesn't follow?" Lisa asked. "It will. They're hunters. Chase instinct is powerful. If we run, it will follow." Jake looked at each person. "But this is dangerous. I need volunteers to be the bait runners. You'll be exposed and at risk." Greg stepped forward. "I'll do it. I'm old and slow anyway. Might as well be useful." Kelly volunteered too. So did a quiet man named Carl who had barely spoken since being captured. Jake wanted to argue to tell them it was too dangerous. But he needed them. They needed this plan to work. As darkness fell, they moved into position. Jake and Amy climbed to the top of the ravine walls with 3 others. Greg, Kelly, and Carl waited near the cave with the rest of the group. Everyone was terrified, but they were also determined. The plan began at full dark. Greg triggered the deadfall trap intentionally, sending rocks crashing down in the narrow passage. The sound echoed across the mountain like thunder. Then Greg, Kelly, and Carl ran from the cave, making noise and carrying torches made from tree branches and dried grass. They did not have to wait long. A V-Krath emerged from the forest, drawn by the commotion. Jake watched from above as the creature approached the cave, studied the sprung trap, then noticed the running humans. Its body language changed. The careful hunting posture became an aggressive chase stance. It wanted the glory of multiple kills. The 3 runners led the alien toward the ravine, staying just far enough ahead to keep it interested, but not so far that it gave up. Jake's heart pounded as he watched them approach. The timing had to be perfect. Greg, Kelly, and Carl ran through the ravine. The V-Craft followed at incredible speed, its claws tearing up the ground. It was focused entirely on its prey, not watching above. "Now!" Jake shouted. They pushed the rocks over the edge. Tons of stone fell onto the ravine floor. Some rocks missed, but enough hit the target. The V-Craft shrieked, a sound that hurt Jake's ears even from a distance. It was not dead, but it was trapped and injured under the rocks. "Go!" Jake climbed down as fast as he could. The others followed. They reached the ravine floor where the V-Craft struggled to free itself. Its color-changing skin flickered wildly, showing pain. One leg was crushed. Green blood pooled on the ground. But it was still dangerous. The creature snarled and swiped at them with its claws. Greg barely dodged, falling backward. The V-Craft's other arm held a weapon, something like a blade made of glowing energy. It swung the weapon, trying to cut through the rocks, pinning it down. Jake grabbed one of the crude spears. He had to get close, which meant entering the range of those claws and that blade. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he forced himself forward. The V-Craft saw him coming and focused its attacks on him. Jake dodged the first swipe, feeling the claws pass inches from his face. He stepped on a rock, slipped, and fell. The alien's blade came down, and Jake rolled desperately to the side. The blade cut through the ground where his head had been, leaving a smoking gash in the stone. Amy hit the V-Craft from the side with another spear, driving it into the creature's shoulder. It roared and tried to turn toward her. Jake saw his chance. He grabbed a sharp piece of broken rock and drove it into the V-Craft's neck with all his strength. Green blood sprayed. The creature thrashed, throwing Jake backward. He hit the ravine wall hard enough to see stars, but the wound was deep. The V-Craft's movements became weaker. Its color-changing skin faded to a dull gray. Greg picked up a large rock and brought it down on the creature's head. Once, twice, 3 times. The V-Craft stopped moving. They stood in shocked silence, breathing hard, staring at what they had done. They had killed a V-Craft, something that no prey species had ever done before. The impossible had happened. Jake forced himself to move. "Search it. Take everything useful. Weapons, armor, anything." With shaking hands, they stripped the dead alien. The energy blade weapon still worked, though none of them understood how to turn it off. It just kept glowing. The V-Craft wore a belt with strange devices attached. One looked like a small projector. When Carl accidentally activated it, he disappeared from view for a moment before the device flickered and died. "Cloaking device," Amy breathed. "They can turn invisible." They also took pieces of the creature's armor and the strange fabric of its clothing. Everything might be useful. Jake picked up the energy blade, feeling its weight. It was lighter than he expected and perfectly balanced. Above them, hidden cameras recorded everything. In the observation deck, Scrath watched the display with an expression his species rarely showed: surprise. He replayed the footage 3 times, studying how the weak prey things had used their environment and cooperation to bring down a trained hunter. Other V-Craft in the observation room clicked and hissed to each other in alarm. This was unprecedented, unthinkable. Prey did not kill hunters. It violated the natural order they believed in. Scrath silenced them with a gesture. He studied the human who had led the attack, this Jake Morrison. The creature showed tactical thinking and leadership. It had overcome fear to make the killing strike. It had turned weak, and 3 days had passed since they killed the first V-Craft. The cave had become something like a base camp. Greg had organized their supplies and created tools from scavenged materials. Amy studied the alien plants and found several with useful properties. Lisa treated injuries with increasing skill. But the biggest change was in the people themselves. They were no longer just scared victims. They were becoming something else: survivors, fighters. Jake sat near the cave entrance, studying the captured energy blade. He had figured out how to turn it on and off by pressing a specific spot on the handle. The blade hummed when active, cutting through wood and stone like they were paper. It was an incredible weapon, but it made him nervous. Technology he did not fully understand could fail at the worst moment. Greg approached, carrying the damaged cloaking device. "I think I got it working. Sort of." "Sort of?" Jake asked. "It works for about 30 seconds, then needs 5 minutes to recharge. The power cell is damaged, but 30 seconds of invisibility could save a life." Greg demonstrated, pressing a button. He shimmered and disappeared from view, though Jake could still hear his breathing. Half a minute later, Greg reappeared, and the device made a soft beeping sound. "That's useful," Jake said. "Good work." They had also learned to use some of the Vkrath armor. The pieces they took were too large for human bodies, but Greg had cut and shaped them into chest plates and arm guards. The material was incredibly tough, resistant to both cutting and impact. Amy came running up the mountain path, breathing hard. She carried samples of a purple flower in her hands. "Jake, you need to see this." She crushed the flower and held it near his face. Jake's eyes immediately started watering. His nose burned. He stumbled backward, coughing. "Exactly," Amy said, excited. "This pollen is an extreme irritant. I tested it on some of the local animals. Their reaction was even worse than yours. If the Vkrath have similar biology to other predators I've studied, this could seriously mess with their senses." Jake wiped his eyes. "Can we weaponize it?" "Already working on it. If we dry and powder the pollen, we can throw it like pepper spray. Or better yet, set up traps that release it when triggered." Amy's scientific excitement was almost childlike. "We could blind them, even temporarily." Over the next 2 days, they built 3 more traps at different locations around the mountain. Each one used different methods. One had the pollen bomb Amy designed. Another used sharpened stakes hidden under leaves. The third was a net trap made from vines that would tangle anything that walked through a specific path. They also began training. Jake taught basic combat moves and evasion tactics. Greg showed them how to move quietly and use terrain for cover. Even Lisa learned how to use a spear, though she hoped she would never need to. On the 5th night, the Vkrath came again. But this time, the humans were ready. Jake heard them first, 3 sets of footsteps moving through the forest below. He woke the others with a gesture. No words needed. Everyone knew their roles. The Vkrath split up, each taking a different approach to the mountain. This was what Jake had hoped for. Alone, they could be defeated. Together, they would be much harder to handle. The first hunter triggered the pollen trap. Even from a distance, Jake heard its screams of pain and confusion. The creature stumbled through the forest, clawing at its eyes. Kelly and Carl, positioned nearby with crude bows Greg had made, shot arrows at it. Most missed, but 2 hit. Not enough to kill, but enough to drive the wounded hunter away. The second Vkrath was smarter. It detected the stake trap and avoided it. But that forced it onto a specific path, exactly where Jake wanted it. He waited in the darkness, wearing the damaged cloak. When the device activated, he became invisible for his precious 30 seconds. The Vkrath passed within 10 feet of him, searching for prey. Jake followed silently, the energy blade ready. When the hunter paused to test the air, Jake struck from behind. The blade cut through the armor and deep into the creature's back. The Vkrath spun, fast as lightning, its claws raking across Jake's arm. Pain exploded up his shoulder. But the wound was mortal for the alien. It collapsed, green blood pooling around it. Jake took its weapons and retreated before more hunters could arrive. The third Vkrath found the net trap, but it cut through the vines easily with its blade. It was learning from the others' mistakes. This one was older, more experienced. It approached the cave carefully, watching for traps. Greg spotted it first. "It's coming up the main path." "Let it come," Jake said. His arm burned where the claws had cut him, but Lisa had already bandaged it. Everyone in position. They had turned the area around the cave entrance into a killing ground. Rocks piled on both sides, ready to be pushed down, sharpened stakes hidden in shadows. Multiple escape routes in case things went wrong. The V-Craft reached the cave entrance. It paused, studying the defenses. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then it spoke through a translation device. "Clever prey, you have killed 2 hunters. This is unexpected, but you will still die. I am V-Cross, trained by Scrath himself. You cannot defeat me." Jake stepped into view, holding the energy blade. "Maybe, but we're going to try." V-Cross tilted its head, studying Jake. "You are the leader, the one who killed Drask in the ravine. Scrath speaks of you. He says you think like a hunter, not like prey. This intrigues him." "I don't care what Scrath thinks," Jake said. "I care about keeping my people alive." "Then surrender. I will make your death quick, painless. The others can live if you sacrifice yourself." Vakross moved closer. "This is honor. This is mercy." "This is a lie," Jake replied. "You'll kill us all anyway. That's what your kind does." Vakross laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "You understand us well. Yes, all will die, but you can choose how. Fighting brings pain. Surrender brings peace. Then we fight." Jake attacked first, hoping to surprise the experienced hunter. But V-Cross was ready. The 2 blades met in a flash of energy. Jake was fast, but V-Cross was faster, stronger, more skilled. Within seconds, Jake was on the defensive, barely blocking the attacks. The others tried to help. Amy threw spears from the side. Greg pushed rocks down from above. But V-Cross dodged everything while still pressing Jake backward toward the cliff edge. Jake's wounded arm weakened. He could not hold the blade steady. V-Cross saw the weakness and exploited it, knocking the weapon from Jake's hand. The blade clattered away across the stones. Jake was defenseless. V-Cross raised its blade for the killing strike. Then Lisa appeared behind the V-Craft, carrying the damaged plasma weapon they had taken from the first kill. Nobody had been able to make it work properly. It usually just sparked and died. But Lisa pressed every button and trigger at once in desperation. The weapon fired. A bolt of blue energy hit V-Cross in the back. The V-Craft screamed and stumbled forward. Jake rolled aside as the hunter fell. V-Cross tried to get up, but the plasma had burned through its armor and into its body. It collapsed and did not move again. Lisa dropped the weapon, her hands shaking. "I didn't think that would work." Jake retrieved his blade and checked the dead hunter. "You saved my life." "You've saved all of us multiple times," Lisa said. "I figured it was my turn." They took V-Cross's equipment and weapons. This hunter had carried more advanced technology, a better cloaking device that lasted several minutes, armor that adjusted its size to fit different bodies, and a communication device. Amy studied the communicator. This might let us listen to their conversations, maybe even understand their language better. Over the next 3 days, they killed 2 more V-Craft using similar tactics. Each victory came at a cost. Carl died protecting Kelly from a hunter's claws. Another survivor named Danny took a blade wound that Lisa could not fully heal. But they were winning. Slowly, desperately, but winning. The human survivors numbered 8 now. All were injured in some way. All were exhausted. But they had weapons, armor, and most importantly, confidence. They had proved these aliens could bleed and die. On the 8th night, something changed. Jake was studying the communication device when it activated on its own. Scrath's voice came through, speaking in English through the translator. "Jake Morrison, I wish to speak with you. Come to the clearing where you first arrived. Come alone. I will not harm you. I give my word as hunt master." Everyone looked at Jake. "It's a trap," Greg said immediately. "Probably," Jake agreed, but something in Scrath's voice made him curious. The alien sounded different, less arrogant, almost respectful. "I'm going," Jake decided. "That's crazy," Lisa said. "We need you. You're the reason we're still alive. And if I don't go, Scrath might send 20 hunters instead of 3. He could flood the dome with warriors and kill us all." Jake checked his weapons. "I need to know what he wants. Maybe there's a way to end this without more people dying." Amy touched his shoulder. "If you're not back by dawn, we come looking for you. If I'm not back by dawn, leave without me. Find a way to signal for rescue. Tell everyone what happened here." Jake looked at each of them. "You've all become fighters, real warriors. Don't forget that." He left before they could argue more. The walk to the clearing took an hour. Jake moved carefully, watching for ambushes. But the forest was empty. No hunters waited in the shadows. Scrath stood in the clearing alone. The massive Veckrath looked different in the moonlight. Less like a monster and more like a warrior. Its armor was marked with symbols Jake now recognized as kill counts and honors. "You came," Scrath said. "This shows courage, or stupidity." "Maybe both," Jake replied, keeping his distance. "What do you want?" Scrath studied him for a long moment. "I want to understand. You are prey, weak, soft, no natural weapons. Yet you have killed 7 of my hunters, 7 trained warriors. This should be impossible. We're not weak, we're just different from what you expected." "Yes, different." Scrath moved closer, and Jake tensed, but the alien made no threatening moves. "I have watched you fight. You use terrain, tools, cooperation. You think many steps ahead. You adapt. These are hunter traits, not prey traits." "Humans evolved as hunters on our world," Jake said. "We hunted animals bigger and stronger than us. We survived ice ages, diseases, predators. We became the dominant species not because we were the strongest, but because we could think and work together." Scrath's head tilted. "Then why do my records classify you as Tier 3 prey? Who gave us this false information?" "I don't know. Maybe humans seemed weak because we use machines instead of claws. Maybe whoever told you about us didn't understand what we really are." The Huntmaster was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. "I have decided. Tomorrow night I hunt you personally, just you, just me. If you win, all humans go free. If I win, the others can choose. Leave in peace or die with honor trying to avenge you." "Why?" Jake asked. "Why offer this?" Jake told the others about his agreement with Scrath. They reacted exactly as he expected. Greg called him crazy. Lisa said he was throwing his life away. Amy pointed out that facing the most skilled Veckrath hunter in single combat was tactically stupid. "I know," Jake said quietly, "but it's our best chance. If I fight him and lose, you all go free. If I somehow win, we all go free. Either way, most of us survive." "And if he's lying?" Kelly asked. "If he kills you and then comes after us anyway?" "Then you fight like I taught you. You survive. You make it home and tell everyone what happened here." Jake looked at each of them. "But I don't think he's lying. Scrath is following some kind of code. Honor matters to his species. He'll keep his word." They did not like it, but they understood. Jake spent the rest of the day preparing. He practiced with the energy blade until his arms ached. He studied every piece of Veckrath technology they had captured, learning how each device worked. He ate well and drank plenty of water. If this was going to be his last fight, he would enter it at full strength. As evening approached, Amy pulled him aside. She handed him a small pouch filled with the irritant pollen. "Just in case, throw it in his face if you get the chance." "That's not fighting with honor," Jake said. "To hell with honor. Survive." Amy's eyes were fierce. "You've kept us alive this long. Don't you dare die on us now." Jake took the pouch. She was right. This was not about honor. This was about survival. When the false sun began to set, Jake walked down to the clearing for the final time. The others wanted to come, but he refused. This was between him and Scrath. Plus, he needed them safe in case things went wrong. Scrath was already waiting in the clearing. The Huntmaster wore minimal armor, carrying only his personal blade. It was longer and more ornate than the weapons the other hunters had carried, with symbols carved into the handle. "You came prepared," Scrath observed, noting Jake's armor and weapons. "Good. I want you at your best." "No technology?" Jake asked, pointing at the cloaking devices and other equipment. "No technology, no traps, just blade and skill." Scrath's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "This is the old way, the pure way, how my ancestors hunted before we became soft with machines." "Then let's begin," Jake said, drawing his blade. They circled each other slowly. Jake watched Scrath's movements, looking for weaknesses. The V-Crath was larger, stronger, faster. Its reach was longer. Its reflexes were better. On paper, Jake should lose this fight in seconds. But Jake had one advantage. He was human. And humans had spent thousands of years learning to kill things that were bigger and stronger than themselves. Scrath attacked first, testing Jake's defenses. The blades met with a crash of energy. Jake blocked and retreated, letting Scrath come forward. He needed to tire the larger opponent, make it use its strength against itself. They fought across the clearing, blades flashing in the fading light. Scrath was incredibly skilled, every movement precise and economical. Jake barely kept up, blocking more than attacking. His arms grew heavy, his wounded shoulder screamed in pain. But he kept moving, kept thinking. Scrath spoke as they fought. "You are better than I expected, but you will still lose. You are only human." "Only human," Jake agreed, dodging a strike that would have taken his head off. "That's what everyone keeps saying, but humans killed the last megafauna on Earth with stone-tipped spears. We crossed oceans on wooden boats. We split the atom and walked on our moon. Only human is more than you think." He saw an opening and took it, slashing at Scrath's leg. The blade cut through scales, drawing green blood. First wound. Scrath hissed in pain and anger, then pressed the attack harder. Jake gave ground, letting the momentum carry them toward the edge of the clearing where the forest began. The fight lasted an hour. Both were wounded now. Jake's left arm hung useless from a deep cut. Scrath limped from multiple leg wounds. They were both exhausted, running on determination and pride. "Why do you fight so hard?" Scrath asked during a brief pause. "You could surrender. I would make it quick." "Because humans don't quit," Jake gasped. "We're stubborn. It's our greatest weakness and our greatest strength. We'll fight losing battles just because we're too dumb to know when we're beaten." Scrath laughed, that grinding sound. "I understand now. You are not prey. You never were. You are apex predators who pretend to be civilized. Dangerous." They fought on. The artificial stars came out above the dome. Both were moving slower now, their blades meeting with less force. This would end soon, one way or another. Jake made his decision. He pretended to stumble, dropping his guard for just a moment. Scrath took the bait and lunged forward for the killing strike. Jake threw the pouch of pollen directly into the V-Crath's face. The powder exploded in a cloud. Scrath screamed, clawing at its eyes. It swung its blade blindly, trying to hit Jake. But Jake was already moving, circling behind. He drove his blade into Scrath's back, aiming for where he guessed the heart would be. Scrath fell to its knees. The blade clattered from its hands. Green blood poured from the wound. The Huntmaster tried to speak, but only blood came out. Jake pulled his blade free and stepped back, breathing hard. He had won. Somehow, impossibly, he had won. Scrath collapsed forward onto the ground. With its last strength, it activated its translation device. The mechanical voice was weak, but clear. "You fought, without honor, used tricks." "I fought to survive," Jake said. "That's the human way. We use every advantage, every tool, every trick, because for us, survival is more important than honor. Then you are truly predators. Scrath's eyes were fading. My people must learn this, must remember that the galaxy holds true hunters. Tell them, Jake said quietly. Tell them that humans are not prey. Tell them we'll fight back. Tell them that if they come hunting us, they'll find that we hunt back harder. Scrath's body went still. The greatest hunter of the Vkrath was dead, killed by a human with a blade and some flower pollen. Jake stood over the body for a long moment, then picked up Scrath's ornate blade as proof of his victory. He walked back to the cave. His friends ran to meet him halfway, shocked to see him alive. Lisa treated his wounds while the others celebrated. They had survived. They had won. The next morning, the dome opened. A Vkrath ship appeared, but it did not attack. Instead, a voice came through on the communication device. The Vkrath were honoring Scrath's word. The humans were free to go. As they prepared to leave, Jake looked back at the dome one last time. 7 humans had survived out of the original 16. The cost had been terrible, but they had proved something important. The Vkrath escorted them to their ships. Before Jake boarded the frontier runner, one of the aliens approached. It was shorter than the others, wearing different armor. I am Kreth, second Huntmaster now. Scrath's death has changed things among my people. He sent a final message before he died. All Vkrath will know that humans are not prey. Some will want revenge, others will want to avoid you. But all will remember. Good, Jake said, because if your people come hunting humans again, they'll find we've been expecting them. We'll be ready, and next time, you won't be the only ones doing the hunting. Kreth's head tilted in what might have been respect or fear. Perhaps that is why Scrath found you so interesting. You think like us, like hunters, but you are willing to do what we are not. You fight without honor, without rules. You fight to win, no matter the cost. That's what prey does when it refuses to die, Jake replied. It becomes something else, something dangerous. The Vkrath ships released the human vessels and departed. Jake set course for Earth, carrying Scrath's blade as evidence and a warning. The story spread quickly through human space. Aliens had tried to hunt humans for sport, and the humans had turned the hunt back on them. 6 months later, Jake received a message. It was Amy, who had returned to her xenobiology research. She had been studying reports from frontier colonies. Vkrath sightings had dropped to almost zero. Other predatory species that had occasionally harassed human ships were also giving them wider berths. I think word got out, Amy's message said. The galaxy is learning that humans are not good prey. Some species are calling us the hidden apex predators now. Creatures that look weak but hunt stronger things. I think we've earned a new reputation, and it's all because you showed them we could fight back. Jake read the message in his ship's cockpit, alone between the stars. He looked at Scrath's blade mounted on his wall. The Huntmaster had been right about one thing. Humans were predators pretending to be civilized. For thousands of years, humanity had worked to move past its violent nature, to build a peaceful civilization. But when pushed, when threatened, that old nature came back. The hunters who had killed mammoths with stone-tipped spears, the warriors who had fought each other for territory, the survivors who had conquered a hostile planet through determination and intelligence. All of that still lived inside every human, waiting. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that because humans did not look like predators, they were not dangerous. They had forgotten that the most successful predators on Earth were not the ones with the biggest teeth or sharpest claws. They were the ones smart enough to make weapons, patient enough to plan, adaptable enough to learn from every fight. They were the ones that refused to be prey. Jake continued his cargo runs, living his quiet life. But now, when other ships passed him in space, they kept their distance. Both human and alien vessels gave him room, because word had spread about the human who had defeated the greatest hunter in the Vakrath Empire. The man who had proved that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to give up, their stubborn determination to survive, their ability to turn any disadvantage into an advantage, their willingness to fight dirty, to break rules, to do whatever it took to win. The galaxy had learned a lesson. You could hunt humans if you wanted. But you should remember that humans had spent their entire history hunting things bigger and meaner than themselves, and they had never lost. Years later, Jake would tell the story to other humans at frontier stations and colony bars. Young people preparing to explore the galaxy would listen with wide eyes as he described the hunt and the fight. He always ended the story the same way. The aliens thought we were prey because we're small and soft and we don't have claws. They learned the hard way that predator and prey aren't about what you look like. They're about how you think, about whether you're willing to fight when everything says you should run, about whether you can turn your weaknesses into weapons. He would touch the blade on his wall and smile. Humans aren't the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the fastest or the toughest, but we're the ones who refuse to quit. We're the ones who will fight with rocks if we have to. We're the ones who turn being hunted into hunting back. That's what makes us dangerous. That's what makes us survivors. That's what makes us human. The legend of Jake Morrison and the Vakrath hunt became part of human culture. Children learned it in schools. Soldiers studied it in military academies. Diplomats used it as leverage in negotiations with alien species. The message was clear and simple. Humanity was not prey. Humanity had never been prey. And anyone who tried to hunt humans would learn the same lesson Skrath had learned in that dome. The hunters could become the hunted. And when humans decided to hunt back, they did not stop until the job was finished. That was the doom of any species that underestimated them. The galaxy was vast and full of powerful civilizations. Some were stronger than humans. Some had better technology. Some had evolved as perfect predators with natural weapons and enhanced senses. But none of them had spent millions of years surviving as persistence hunters who chased their prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. None of them had the human combination of intelligence, endurance, and sheer bloody-minded determination, and that made all the difference. Jake Morrison flew on through the stars, carrying the proof that humanity's reputation was earned, not given. Behind him, the legend grew. Ahead of him, the galaxy watched and learned. Humans were not prey. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were hunters. And that was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Because you have earned it. Because the hunt is only honorable if both sides have a chance. Because you have shown me that my people have become arrogant. Skrath's eyes glowed in the darkness. We have hunted weak prey for so long that we forgot what real hunting means. You remind us. Tomorrow we will see if a human hunter can defeat a Vakrath hunter in a fair fight. Jake considered the offer. It was dangerous, maybe suicidal. But it was also a chance to save everyone else, and part of him, the part that had been a soldier, wanted to face Skrath, to prove once and for all that humans were not prey. I accept, Jake said. Tomorrow night, just you and me. Skrath nodded slowly. Good. Prepare well, human. I will show you no mercy. But I will show you respect. The huntmaster turned and vanished into the forest. Jake stood alone in the clearing, wondering if he had just made a brilliant tactical decision or signed his own death warrant. Tomorrow would tell. SS into strength through planning. Interesting, Skrath said in his own language. Perhaps these humans are not tier-3 prey after all. Perhaps they are something else. He made a decision. He would send 3 more hunters into the dome tomorrow. Better hunters, more experienced, and he would watch closely to see what these humans would do next. Back in the ravine, Jake organized the group. We move back to the cave. We study this equipment, we figure out how to use it, and we prepare for what comes next, because they won't underestimate us anymore. As they climbed back up the mountain, Carl asked the question everyone was thinking. Do you really think we can survive 9 more days? Jake looked at the energy blade in his hand, then at the people around him. They looked different now. Still scared, but also determined. They had tasted victory, and it had changed something inside them. Yes, Jake said, I think we can, because we're not prey. We never were. They just didn't know it yet. The 3rd night passed without any V-Krath attacks. The hunters were regrouping, reassessing. And in the cave, humans who had been running for their lives were learning to fight back. Greg thought for a moment. Maybe. There are loose rocks higher up the mountain. If we set them right, we could create a rock slide in that narrow passage we came through. But it would take time and work. Then let's start now, Jake said. We have maybe 6 hours until dark. They worked through the afternoon. Greg directed the construction of a deadfall trap in the narrow passage leading to their cave. It was primitive but effective. Large rocks were carefully balanced on a ledge. Vines that Amy found were used as triggers. If something came through that passage at night, tons of rock would fall on it. As the artificial sun set again, they retreated to the cave. This time they were slightly more prepared, slightly more hopeful. They had a plan, even if it was a desperate one. The 2nd night began. The forest went silent again, and somewhere in the darkness, the V-Krath began their hunt once more, but this time the prey was learning to think like predators. Ibellion. I'm not dying to some alien game. Lisa took a deep breath and steadied herself. I have basic medical training. If anyone gets hurt, I can help. The woman with red hair stepped forward. I'm Amy Sullivan, xenobiology researcher. If we're stuck in an alien environment, maybe I can figure out what's safe to eat or use. Jake felt a small spark of hope. These people were scared, but they were not broken yet. He gathered everyone together and started moving into the forest, away from the clearing. Behind them, hidden cameras tracked their every move. Above them, in the observation deck of the V-Krath ship, Scrath watched with interest. The hunt was about to begin.